Well, WCW had been teasing a Steiner split for a while in the lead up to this event, and you're going to be involved in a match on Nitro where your Steiner brothers will take on Conan and Buff Bagwell. Your team is going to win, but you're going to chastise Scott after the match because he never tags out and he wins the whole thing by himself. The next week, he throws down a ref and tells you to pay the fine, which you refuse to do because of the issues between Scott and Rick during the time. At Sold Out, Scott will show some arrogance by actually posing with Buff Bagwell, who is his opponent during the match. So now we arrive here at Super Brawl after all that context. It's the Cow Palace in front of more than 12,000 fans. And of course, you're ringside when the Steiner brothers take on Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Let's drop in on the only clip we've got this week. It's only about a minute, and it shows the heel turn that I don't think anybody really saw coming. Here we go.
Back into... Oh! Belly to belly, overhead release. Kevin Nash in the ring illegally. Coming in. Ducky low, Rick Steiner.
Now let me ask you the magic question here. If the opportunity arises, will Kevin Nash go for the power bomb? Another $50,000. I think he will.
There you see the Steiners. One of their trademark poses in the ring, daring the opponent to get in. Rick and Scott. I say to that power bomb question, yes. Oh, what did I just see? He double axed on his own brother. What in the world did I just see? You gotta be kidding.
I knew there was something wrong. I could smell it.
Man, he's acknowledging Scott Hall. This is beyond cover. Oh, he's a DiBiase. DiBiase.
So, Ted, not only do you take a bump, you take a bump on the hardest part of the ring, the apron. How about that? To me, Ted, you taking a bump is kind of significant here because you had received your Lloyds of London payout a couple years prior, with the stipulation being that you can no longer be physically active in wrestling.
Right.
I mean, when you're out there and you're taking a bump while you've settled with Lloyds of London, is there any fear of repercussion, or were you pretty sure that they weren't watching Super Brawl 1998?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I think it would be like if, and again, the entire time I was there, that would be the only time that happened.
Yeah. I don't think you took any bumps, really.
And if they had said anything, all I had to say was, well, I really didn't mean to take the bump.
He was supposed to hit me and I was supposed to just fall down, but I slipped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got you. That makes sense. What did you think of splitting up one of the most over tag teams of the era, the Steiner brothers? Did you feel like it's time? They'd been a tag team for long enough?
Well, no matter who you are, everything gets old after a while. And so it's, I think it's always good to change it up, and I didn't have any qualms about that. And of course, the other thing you need to realize too, Marcus, is that, my heart really wasn't in it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you, when I stopped physically wrestling, that's what I absolutely love to do. I played the manager role. I think I did a pretty good job of that as well. But my heart was always with being active.
And to me, it's I know that this was something that you asked for, was to become a babyface manager, but at the same time, you are one of the best established heels in the history of the business at this point. After this run with Vince, and now you came in and originally a part of the NWO, but of course, as you've mentioned here, Bischoff kind of took over the role that he brought you in to fill as like the manager of the spokesperson of the NWO. Yeah. And so it's the idea of making you babyface is I think it's cool. It's an interesting footnote that all of a sudden you're a babyface and you're with the Steiners, but really the bread and butter for Ted DiBiase in wrestling is being a heel, isn't it?
Yeah. It was, and again, I don't know if the fans would understand it, but all during that time, when my contract with WCW ran out, I had no intention of, and again, when they brought me on, doing the managing thing it was okay, but it wasn't, my heart wasn't in wrestling anymore. My heart was in the ministry work that I was doing and making those appearances. And so, yeah, and I told those guys, I said, I'm making a lot of appearances on Christian television. That's why they turned me babyface. It's
Mhm.
like, they're seeing me, worship God on one channel, and you know trying to beat somebody up on that other channel.
Ted, you mentioned there that you had no intention of, renegotiating once your contract had run out. In your mind at this point, are you completely done with professional wrestling overall, or were you thinking maybe I'll return to it down the road?
Well, never say never.
Hmm.
You know, and it wasn't that. I mean, it was kind of like if something were to present itself, and I thought it was pretty good, I said, I'd be willing to do that. But uh, by and large, my whole focus in life had changed to the ministry and the ministry work that I was doing, and I was traveling all over the country, and being up again. But it was my fame from wrestling that was attracting these people, and now there's this guy was, what a bad guy he was on TV, and now he's, I got to go hear him. So that's where my focus was for the most part.
Well, look, before we go, I do have to ask. This event, Super Brawl, and this heel turn for Scott Steiner is also going to mark the transformation of Scott Steiner into Big Papa Pump, and he became a lot more vocal. He took on the look of Billy Graham. He dyed his hair bleach blonde. He's got a blonde goatee with the black mark in it, like Billy Graham had. And he's turned into one of the more polarizing figures in the business during this time. Ted, what did you think of this transformation from Scott Steiner into this Big Papa Pump character?
Well, I think he did it pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really did. When you were talking about, you said Billy Graham, you're talking about the wrestler.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If you remember, like,
Talking about Reverend Billy.
yes, he didn't have a lot in common with the Reverend Billy Graham, that's for sure. Uh, but yeah, if you remember 1987, 88, Billy Graham comes back to the WWF. He's got the bald head, but he's got the blonde goatee with the black patch right in the middle of
Yeah,
it. And
yeah,
that's exactly what Scott Steiner did here. But yeah, it's what a character change for Scott, isn't
yeah.
it?
It was, and he did well, I thought.
For your money, the best physique in the history of pro wrestling, is it Scott Steiner? I mean, he looked like an actual, Olympian bodybuilder.
At that time, absolutely. I mean, and to that, the only one I could say that could possibly surpass him was Billy Graham when he was
Oh yeah.
at his best.
Yeah, Billy Graham was a monster.
Oh yeah,
Kerry Von Erich had a phenomenal physique as well. There were a lot of good ones, but man, Scott Steiner, like, his muscles were like
yeah.
enormous. His biceps
I
were
mean, they always and Scott had a great body and he could work.
yes, that's the other thing.
That's yeah. There's been several guys that looked really good until they rang the bell.
Yes, everything's good until that damn bell rings.